Hi, friends. Thank you for joining us again for Food for Thought. This is Sunil Chandy. I'm the rector and priest here at Christ Episcopal Church, and this is a ministry out of Christ Episcopal Church. And we want to thank you for connecting with us as we face this global challenge together, this challenge of COVID-19. But in the midst of this great challenge, we know that we find moments of grace and moments of community and friendship and fun and joy, even in the midst of our challenge. So if you are with us today, please say hello, connect with us, tell us that you're here, tell us hi to all those people who might be watching this show as well. And today we have an amazing guest, someone who I'm looking forward to speaking with, because they're doing such great work and cutting edge work, and I just am so pleased that that they're here with us today. But if you are here, hi, Mary. Thank you for being with us, watching. Thank you. Good afternoon, Natalie. I thank you for watching again. And Neil, good afternoon. Good, and I hope your wife is doing well too. Betsy, thank you. Namaste. Yes, and so there'll be other people connecting throughout the show, and people who are watching, people who might watch later on in the day, and that's okay. That's how we do ministry in this COVID-19 challenging environment. But today, before we go into our guest, which I think you'll love him. I think he's going to be really wonderful and offers wonderful insight for us. I was reading through my daily morning prayers, and the readings for today, for this Advent day, was a Philippians passage, and it's Paul's letter to the Philippians, and he says, "This is my prayer, that your love may overflow more and more with knowledge and full insight, to help you determine what is best, so that in the day of Christ you may be pure and blameless." That's Philippians chapter 1, verses 9 through 10. I think that was a really wonderful passage, because I love the idea about it's really, the passage is about how to make decisions and making those decisions that are best for us, and how Paul is asking the Philippians to make those decisions is with the prism of love, with the viewpoint, with the eyeglasses of love, to make any decisions in life. It's interesting because I was born in India, of course, right? And I came here when I was very young, and one of the things that's so important to understand about American culture and Western culture in general is that we have so many choices in our within our grasp. We're not living in a totalitarian government with a totalitarian government. We're not living with very scarce means on the most part. We have a lot of choices in general, and that's good, because this country is based on the idea that there is freedom, that a person has individual right to choose their destiny. But sometimes so many choices can be overwhelming to us. There's so many things that we can do, and so many ways to respond instead of just reacting, and so this can seem overwhelming, especially now in this particular challenge with this global plague, COVID 2019, where we might actually feel like we don't have much choice, right? We're called to be isolated at times. We're called to be on lockdown. We might be connecting via the computer to each other. We don't seem to have the choice to necessarily be in community the way we used to be, and so in some ways there's that idea that our choices are truncated a little bit. But Paul, I think, says that especially to the Philippians, as he's writing from prison, from Rome, he's writing that we always have options, we always have choices. How we deal with the world, our attitude towards the world can make a difference and can make a difference on what we choose. And Paul calls the Philippians in general to, when you have the possibility of making many choices, make the best choice with the eyes of love. What is good, not just for us in general, what is a self-centered type of good, but what is a choice that might make the world a better place? What is the choice that might help others be better and do better and find hope and joy? I think that's an important prism to have our choices made. You know, yes, there is a sense that we could that we don't have much choice in some of the things that we have, but we do have a choice in how we respond to things, how we respond to our situation right now in the midst of this global challenge, how we respond when in terms of the health crisis this challenge offers us. I mean, do we wear masks, and why do we wear masks? Is it do we choose to not wear a mask because we want our individual freedom, or do we choose to wear a mask to protect others so that they too might have life and hope and live a good life? There's also the choice of what to do when we come across things that are unjust in the world. Do we sit? Do we just wait? Do we let other people engage in marches or protests? Or do we find ourselves trying to look at what is the choice that would help people feel loved and affirmed and help the world be a better place? How do we live? How do we choose to live our lives is important. And I think Paul to the Philippians is telling them, choose your best decisions with this prism of love, not just love for yourself, but for your community, the people that you're with, that you're journeying with. Today, we have this wonderful guest. His name on in media and in his work is Big Lux, and I got on to Big Lux through Kevin Lothar is his name, and this wonderful musician through a couple of our parishioners, and also the Sun newspaper did this really wonderful article about Big Lux, and also we had one of our parishioners who's an NPR writer. He suggested that he had an article about Kevin, and I just was enamored by Kevin's bio and who he is. Kevin is a musician, and he is also an Army veteran who does many wonderful things. His bio reads, he's a hip hop violinist, a storyteller, a West Point graduate, a combat veteran, and he's witnessed some extraordinary sights in his travels worldwide. And he has traveled extensively. I mean, he's lived in Baghdad and Germany, Afghanistan, Korea, and not Missouri, Missouri. And so he's got this wonderful set of experiences, and his music is so beautiful, and he lives with a passion, and I think he's choosing what is best for him and also what is best for the world around him. Dave, would you please bring Big Lux on? Hi. Hello.
Hey, Sunil. Good to. How are you doing this afternoon?
This afternoon, I'm doing great. As soon as I've been looking forward to speaking with you. I mean, I love hip hop. I grew up in Teaneck, New Jersey, but the way before you went to high school here in Westerly, and I went to the high school there, and Teaneck was the first voluntarily integrated town in the country, and and it was Teaneck, New Jersey, and it had folks from all over, and And so I used to have I used to be into hip hop. I mean, but old style hip hop. Curtis Blow, and the what is it? I forgot their names, but Curtis Blow was one of the ones I listened to,
Okay.
and then Public Enemy later on. Public Enemy was really good for me. I mean,
Yeah.
but they're all older now,
They are. Well, even the people that I listen to are like older now. Like like when I grew up, like, Jay-Z is like 50. So I'm like, all right, okay, come on.
Jay-Z is old. Oh my God. All right.
Not old. I just used to like. I'm 37. I'm old. I consider myself old now too.
No,
So.
oh no. I think you're really. I mean, I love what you're doing with the violin, and your voice. The voice that you have when you're rapping. I just there were a couple of videos that I saw, and I hopefully we'll be able to get to see some of them. But your message is powerful, and it's passionate. I mean, it's got, I feel it's got the Spirit of God moving you in this direction, and you could do anything. I mean, I think your bio said that you were not only an Army veteran, but you have an engineering degree. Went back to MBA to get an MBA in real estate, and yet you're following this passion of music.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about you.
Yeah. It's. I feel like I've had this wild, interesting ride that I never could have predicted where I would end up from the beginning. But I guess the short version is, grew up in Westerly, went to high school here, got a fantastic music education at Westerly High School. When the band program, especially when it's great now, but when we went through, it was something incredible. I don't know if we really appreciate how much in the town that we had like a world-class institution here in Little Westerly that, so many people became professional musicians out of that program. And then decided that I wanted to do something for myself and my community, and going to West Point, and just kind of proving to myself that even though I feel like I had like relative privilege growing up in Westerly, especially at that time. Like I was really privileged looking at some of my relatives who are from, my parents both grew up in Newark, New Jersey, which is a much more difficult place to succeed, especially for the Black community. And so, I looked around at my relatives and I was like, well, I don't want people to just think that I was successful because of where I grew up and where my parents were, and I was safe and happy here. So I want to do something difficult. And so West Point kind of fit that bill for me. And so I did that, graduated, became an Army engineer. And that was in 2004. So my sophomore year was 9/11. And once 9/11 happened, our whole focus changed. We all knew basically at that point that when we graduated, we were going to war. It was kind of preordained. And actually, Donald Rumsfeld spoke at my graduation, and he basically, I don't remember almost anything he said. I just remember basically like a 30-minute speech could be summed up as like, get ready. And like, I was like, okay. And so sure enough, less than 2 years later, I was in Baghdad, and I was there for 15 months leading an engineer platoon. And yeah, that was an experience for sure. Really fortunate to have brought all my soldiers back home. We had lots of hard fighting and got into lots of situations. And then came back. I was stationed in Germany at the time, came back to the States, ended up going out to California to study some language, some Chinese. And then I went and stationed in Korea for 4 years. And that was another crazy experience. Came back to the States, did Afghanistan and Egypt and Kuwait, and then decided it was time to hang them up. And then went to grad school in Miami to get my business degree. And this whole time I've been playing music, and I realized that while I was down there, I slowly I started to make a name for myself a little bit, and I realized that it was going to be possible for me to play music full time. And I was like, that was just never something I had never thought was going to be possible. And so once I graduated with my business degree, I said, all right, I'm going to come back home to Rhode Island where I have a little bit better support network. I'm going to give this music thing a try and see if I can be that guy and follow my passions and really figure out who I am as a person. And so I've been doing that for the last 2 years, and it has been a wild, interesting ride with lots of highs, like doing a TED Talk, selling out the Knickerbocker for my album release party, and then, playing in protests, or organizing a protest this summer, organizing a music festival this summer, and then like insane lows, like in March and April, when I wondered if I'd ever play on a stage ever again,
Yeah.
So yeah, and especially this summer, social activism work has been really at the forefront of everything that I've been doing. So I've really got kind of a purpose, a dedication, and I'm trying to just make a lot of different things happen right now. And it's just been a blessing.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you, it's a blessing to us because, people sometimes are very scared of making any type of choice, and they always look for people. I know I'm like that. I look for the most secure choice, and what you're doing is you're risking, and yet, and by following your passion, and by doing that, though, I mean, there's all these various strains are coming out of your music. I mean, I was listening to the music about your the work that you have about your army experience that came out. It was so powerful. The way I hope we can listen to some of this, Dave. I hope we could get some of this material up here for us to hear. But then also, I love the idea about. I know that you there was a couple of songs about church, your experience in church, and that that also moved me. And then there was. It's just moving. It's just wonderful to see how your passion is giving voice to something from all of your strands of your life, all the strands of your life, and I think that's God's movement in you. You're giving your heart to God, and God is moving you to use those gifts that you have and to help people connect with you and with what you've experienced.
No, it's a more profound way to think about it. Like I hadn't really given a lot of thought to the way that music brings together all of those different threads in my life. But, I think of it more as just having stories to tell. I know I might have been an okay musician. Had I decided right out of high school to go to school for music and get really technically proficient and hang out with musicians all the time and really figure out the industry, maybe I would have really gone somewhere doing that route. But yeah, I feel what I really have to offer the world in my art and my music is my energy, number one, and my stories, number two. Like I think without that, then sometimes it's just sounds. You're not communicating. You're not communicating anything. So I'm glad to have an outlet I can push everything and funnel everything through.
Well, you know what? Like I know that you would be a successful musician anyway. I have a feeling about that. I think I love the way you synthesize the violin. I mean, I could never imagine the violin being used for hip hop, and you do it, and it's like Deliver Me, that song. You use it and use the violin, not. I mean, it's beautiful. It's technical. the way the violin is played, but then you use the violin with your fingers and plucked it, and you created a beat, and it's kind of like you're using every part of that instrument, right? And that's what I felt in the 3-4 songs that I've heard from you. It's you're using all of your life to speak the words out, and helping us to hear what you've experienced.
Yeah, that's really high. It's really high pace. I appreciate that, and I think that's that's one of the things about hip hop too. And I think there may be a lot of watchers of the show who don't know a lot about hip hop, or know what they see through media. And the medium of hip hop is, to me, it's amazing as for a couple different reasons. One, it's an amazing storytelling medium. It's always been hip hop has always been about telling your truth about what's happening in your neighborhood, what you and your friends are up to, what's going on. Like, I think hip hop and country music are probably, I feel like, the two best genres at just saying, like, okay, these are my stories. We're just gonna throw that out there. But I think what hip hop does in particular, and the difference between hip hop and rap, because rap is just talking about using kind of spoken word behind a beat. That's basically what rap is. The hip hop is basically joining together a DJ and an MC. So a DJ playing the music and an MC who is the one who's out there spitting the truth through rap. And what the DJ can bring all kinds of different samples, all different kinds of styles, all different kinds of albums. Usually traditionally would have that turntable with the records, and so they could throw in a Marvin Gaye record, they could throw in a Rolling Stones record, they could throw in anything like a Sinatra, and you can get off a sample off of that, and you can throw it in and make it into hip hop because you have somebody there. So you can take any style of music and make it hip hop. And so I end up playing everything from country and bluegrass to blues and jazz to rock to more electronic stuff and dubstep. I get to play the full range of genres, Latin music, reggaeton, bachata. Like it's just, so I get to do the full range, and I have to be able to do the full range. And so I get to explore all of humanity. I got to play the hora at a Jewish wedding on New Year's Eve a couple weeks ago, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. And I'm telling you, like,
so it's kind of, it's a creative process, right? It's kind of like doing all these different things, and so the idea is also you could appreciate all these different types of music, all this, and then you're kind of trying to figure out what works and how you could bring out the story. I mean, I got to tell you, I mean, like, I remember the groups now I get it, like Sugar Hill Gang, Curtis, all of those guys. I remember that they were like, when I listened to them, when I was younger in high school, I was, and actually a couple of my friends, I connected with we used to have a little rap group together, and I was called Indian Spice. It was crazy.
Somebody find a video. Somebody find a video.
None exists. It was way back in time.
Somebody find a VHS.
8-track.
Somebody find an 8-track.
No, but you know what it was? It's like, but I'm listening to my son, right? My son's, in college, right? And he's listening to rap, right? And I got to tell you, I remember the hip hop these days. There's a difference, and I could even like I feel like I kind of like this music, right? But then there's when my son was listening to it, it seemed a lot more darker, and there was exactly what you were saying. I remember going on a drive with him, and I said, well, "What's the music to listen to?" I listen to rap too, right? And And then he showed it, and I said, "Wait a second, this is so dark. This is so dark." And then I was reacting so much. I said, "Alex, turn it off. I want to listen to something happy, right?" But then I thought about it later. Exactly what you were saying. It's spitting out the truth, spitting out what the reality is for these folks, for people who are in that reality. And it was disturbing for me to hear, right? But it was important for me to hear.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you're hitting on a couple of the reasons why I think, there's a lot of fear about modern hip hop in hip hop culture. I will say, this is probably my kids get off my lawn moment right now. But like, because we're always like, you're like, your music is always like the most pure of whatever generation you are, and whatever comes after you is always some kind of, that ain't real music. But like, I mean, I love the lyricism of the artists, in the 2000s, early 2000s, early aughts, I guess they say. And what you have today, a lot of times, the most popular rap music today is like called trap music, and it's like different, both like sonically, it has different qualities in the drums, like it has a lot of hi-hats, and also in terms of like what they're talking about, and it's like a lot of it is like super bombastic. Like I guess we always had that back in the day too. But everybody wants to talk about how much money they have, and like their boats, and like how much drugs they do or sell or whatever. It's just like, that's not my story. I'm not here to try to mirror what I think is happening out in society. I'm here to tell my story, and that's just as a kid growing up in a small town, joined the army, saw some things, had some experiences, and now I'm just trying to put some positivity out there in the world. So there's a lot of darker stuff out there, and I agree with that.
And the thing is, though, I guess what I'm saying is some of that dark stuff, I mean, we may not like it, some people may not like it, but there's a truth in it that we might have to appreciate. And because sometimes what's out there is actually what people are feeling.
Yes.
And but then of course there's also positive. There's ways to take that, what we're feeling, and make it into something that's positive and helpful and hopeful for the world. I think you're doing that. I mean, I think I love there's the one song that I hope we get to hear it. It's the one that I had that title on it. I lost my piece of paper on it, but it was just the one that said that I'm here.
Oh, that's called "Watch Me." Yeah.
Watch Me. I love that, and I think it actually. And you said one line, and it's just really like 4 or 5 lines total, and you repeat it. Mm-hmm. But there was one line that says, "I got this. I got this." Whatever it just says to me, like whatever challenge we're in the midst of, I got this. Watch me. You might not expect anything out of me, but watch me. I got this.
Yeah, it looks like Dave's got that video queued up. If you want,
let's watch it, Dave. Dave, are you there?
Step back, look out, I got this, watch me. Step back, look out, I got this, watch me. Step back, look out, I got this, Watch me. You know you want to watch me. You know you got to watch me.
Oh, it's beautiful. You know, like I was thinking it's kind of like, you know, you want to play air guitar, you want to play air violin.
I'm glad you like that. I'm glad you like that. That's like the lead, the title, well, not title track. It's the lead track on my EP Major that I released 2019. Yeah, feels a long time ago. But I just, you know, for myself, I always had, you know, especially growing up in a town where I didn't really have anybody around me who looked like me, you know, and lots of people who always just like putting doubts in my mind. I mean, like, hey man, you know, you're like the whitest black person I ever seen. Like, are you really black? Like, what's going on? Like, you know, everybody had some kind of comment or thought about what I should be or who I should be or like who I wasn't or whatever. And like as a young kid, that kind of like that works on you, you know, that works on you, and you're not really sure of your identity, and it takes maybe like a little while to fully kind of step into yourself. And so that was me basically saying like, okay, forget everything that happened in the past. This is who I am right now. You're gonna have to deal with that because I'm here and I got this. I'm gonna take charge and we're gonna make this happen. So it's like,
You know, it's funny though, because your experience is kind of really cool, because it's almost like an immigrant experience, right? And you were an immigrant in these other places. I want to get you back here because I want to talk about Korea a little bit, because I'm into Korean dramedies right now.
Man, Korea, yeah, oh, my second home. Oof.
You know, especially if you're in Seoul. But I think what I just heard from you was just really pretty interesting. Was this idea about living in Westerly? You know, there was an identity crisis for you, right? It's kind of like you're trying to figure out who you are in the midst of this, because everybody's putting labels on you. That's where the challenge is. Here's how you, what I see that you rose to the challenge is that you are able to kind of be in several different communities and be comfortable in it. You're able to be comfortable in your own skin. You're able to translate your experience into different communities. And that's a skill not everybody has. It's a skill that you have. And it's a skill that helps people connect together, because you're probably in a community. When you come into a community, you're able, I mean, you're the first artist, hip hop artist I heard that I heard that loves country music. So, you know, but the idea about seeing what's beautiful, being able to recognize what's beautiful in something, and then being able to experience it and then share it, you know, that's powerful.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. I think that's honestly that is the trick of any artist in any medium, whether you're theater, author, whatever. I consider it like almost like a telepathic trick, you know, like you're just trying to create a mood up here and just like try to put it right in somebody's head. And like if you're successful and they feel that same vibe and they understand how you feel, and you get them to feel empathy for you or your situation, that's how you know it was a success.
Right. And part of the process, it's not easy because you have to know what they're thinking. You have to kind of feel what they're feeling, and then be able to translate your feelings to them in a way that's communicated so that they won't feel alienated.
Right. And for sure. And I would say, like, people who feel marginalized or are are minorities in their community, are specifically good at that. I feel like because they just have to do it every day to navigate everyday situations. You have to act one way, one place, and you have to code switch into acting another place. So that's like, that's why I think we see so many great like LGBTQ creators and minority creators, who are be able to bring things in a different perspective. They're just every day they're having to navigate this this existing system of people who have kind of seen things one way their entire lives, can live in, know how to operate, know how to manipulate the system, know how to move through it. And we're kind of, we're obviously living in it, but we also have to move outside it. And then it's different for us because we're just seen in a slightly different way. Like a lot of people, I think, want to believe that they're colorblind, but we have all of this data that just shows that there are just so much worse outcomes for a lot of these groups. And yeah, like, I mean, we all just have our human biases as well, that's fact, so.
I agree with you. And this is a really interesting and challenging time for us. But here's what I also believe. I think that I believe in God's economy, right?
Mm.
And so nothing in God's economy, God's kingdom, I believe there's nothing that's wasted. Even what we think are our tragedies and our challenges, when we learn how to adapt ourselves to those challenges, they're used in many ways to help the world.
Mm.
And Big Lux, I'm so privileged to have this conversation with you. I think I pray for you. I know that you're going to do great things. And I'm hoping that once we get out of this COVID-19, before you become too famous, you might actually do a concert here at Christ Church.
That would be fantastic.
I would, and you know what? We'll invite Central Baptist. Your parents used to go to Central Baptist. We'll get Cal Lord involved too.
Yeah. Oh man. And can I just say one thing too before we wrap up? I didn't really talk too much about the kind of the activism that we have been doing as a part of the summer of Black Lives Matter, in reaction to specifically the killing of George Floyd. And I think many people in the community have seen people protesting out on the steps of the post office, and I've been out there several times myself. Sometimes I bring an instrument and play for everybody and support that way. Sometimes I just go to lend my verbal support. But I would ask everybody to, have an open mind for experiences that may be outside of what you see in your everyday life, because people are living in lots of different ways and they have lots of different experiences with authorities, and things that happen in this town and in this state and in this nation. And that if you are curious, I know it's tough right now because obviously it's pandemic times and it's also cold. But if you're curious about why we're out there, we invite conversation. We love it when people stop and talk to us and try to figure out why we're there. And we're refining our issues, and we are slowly figuring out ways to bring them up to people in positions of authority, so that we can address some of the things that have been happening that we've seen. So I just want to give you that invitation, and we love everybody in this town. There's no hate in our hearts. We just want to talk about issues that are personal to us.
God bless you. Yeah, I love it. This is beautiful. Kevin, is there any parting words of wisdom for us? And I'm hoping that you come back on, because I think I'd love to have another conversation, a couple of other conversations. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah.
But for this moment, is there any words of wisdom as we're dealing with this global 19 challenge, and as we deal with all the challenges that are coming out as in the forefront, that may have been hidden before or may have been pushed aside, but now we're confronting them in new ways. What word of wisdom might you impart for us?
I think the biggest thing that I've been thinking about lately is just how far our compassion can go. Like, how far should you extend your compassion? Like, we know we should be compassionate towards ourselves and take care of ourselves. We know we should be compassionate towards our immediate family and take care of them and provide for their needs. We know, I think in theory, that we should be compassionate towards our wider community that we talk to. And then once we're trying to think about past the people that we never see or never come in contact with, it starts to get a little bit fuzzier. I think people don't have an idea of that, and know that the world is resource constrained. So, it's a zero-sum game. And if you gain, then I lose. Or if I gain, then you lose. That's it's like a theory of scarcity that a lot of people really subscribe to. And it's caused a lot of fear politically and personally and relationship wise in our lives. If I spend more time with this friend, that friend get jealous. If I spend more time, everybody, this whole theory of scarcity has just caused so much fear. I would challenge people to think about a theory that more love and more resources apply across to everybody just raises everybody, and just a rising tide lifts all boats, honestly. And that when the whole community is provided for, everybody is better off. And I just don't subscribe to that theory of scarcity, and I try not to in my own relationships, in my own life. And I just would encourage people to think about what they're hoarding for themselves and what gifts they have that might be better served somewhere else in the community.
Yeah, I love it. I love the idea that abundance, because God is abundance and God provides in abundance. And we don't have to live with a scarcity mentality. We can live with love and abundance. Beautiful. God bless you, Kevin. God bless you in all that you do.
God bless. Thank you so much for having me. This is great. I can't wait to come back.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love these conversations. I can't believe that I'm lucky enough to have so many people, so many guests who have so much insight. Let's end our time together as we usually do, and it's a little bit extended. I'm so sorry about this, but you could always come back to it, I think, hopefully. Let's end with our prayer. Jesus Christ, you traveled through towns and villages, curing every disease and illness. At your command, the sick were made well. Come to our aid now in the midst of the global spread of the coronavirus. Heal those who are sick with the virus. May they regain their strength and health through quality medical care. Heal us from our fear, which prevents nations from working together and neighbors from helping one another. Be present with those in authority who are making hard decisions. Support the medical professionals, emergency responders, counselors and caregivers, teachers and students, musicians and prophets and priests. We ask this all in your name, Jesus. Amen. Join with me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Friends, go in peace to love and serve the world, serve God in the world. Bring light to the world right now. The world needs it right now.